Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today we are covering Salem's Lot that came out in 2024. But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. So, I am drinking the Republic of Tea Beauty Brain, the Lemon Balm Kiwi Tea. It's got orange peel lemon balm, white hibiscus, ginkgo, rose hips, bamboo, lion's mane, kiwi fruit, safflower, and blue spirulina. So much.
And I am drinking Republic of Tea Thinking of You. And it has organic peppermint, organic chamomile, organic orange peel, natural creamy French vanilla flavor, and organic wintergreen flavor.
And thank you to the Republic of Tea for allowing us to continue to do what we love. And for our tea sippers out there, brew yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. So, for Salem's Lot, a writer who, he kind of grew up in Jerusalem.
Until he was,
He was younger.
Until he was 9.
Yeah. And he returns to his hometown to seek inspiration and quickly discovers that the town is being overtaken by vampires that he has to fight against.
Worst timing ever.
I know. It's like if he had gone in like a week before.
Like he legit just went there to get some answers about his past, about his parents and all, and maybe get some inspiration for his book in the process. But you picked the worst time ever.
Yeah. And I will say for context that I have not seen the previous Salem's Lot.
Nor have I.
I did technically read the starting point of the book a long time ago, but that is way out of my brain by now.
I have not read any of it.
But for those who may not be familiar, it is definitely considered a classic in the Stephen King long line of books. But I will say for entertainment for me, this movie, so the whole thing with Stephen King adaptations is things that work so well on paper translate so poorly in film to where they look silly or they're not scary.
And you only have so much time in a movie.
Right. And
so stuff gets cut,
yes. So I feel like they did a pretty good job on... Well, first, I have to appreciate that it's the original vampires. Yeah. So that was refreshing rather than...
they bite you,
more
you
modern.
turn
Yes.
kind of vampires. Yeah.
Yes. Now, they did kind of change it to where you don't have to exchange the blood to turn. Mm-hmm. But whatever. And it's still inspired by the more classic vampires, which I appreciated. The characters I really enjoyed. You still have the Stephen King tropes is the main character is a writer. They're in Jerusalem's Lot, Maine. You have all of these tropes, and then, some of the kids' parents, I'm not going to go into it. We all know the Stephen King tropes.
There's a weird character that's kind of off, and there's a house that people avoid.
Yeah. So, it's but I was trying to judge the movie by itself because I feel like that's kind of a fault it doesn't necessarily have to be a fault, depending on the perspective, but that's kind of a repeating theme in Stephen King's, universe. So, trying to put this movie in its own little box, I actually really liked the movie. I really liked the actors they chose. I really liked the characters themselves and how they were portrayed. I really enjoyed the vampires and the cool effects with the glowing eyes.
Yeah,
and all of the, like, what they did to try and kill the vampires was varied and interesting, and some of them were rather smart. So, and I also like that it was a small town setting because it made the deaths more devastating until, so many of the townspeople had died that it didn't really matter anymore. But,
well, and it kind of feels a little different when they're all trying to eat you.
Yeah, it's a different feeling, yeah. So I personally give it a 7.5. Like, it's not the most amazing movie I've ever seen, but it is a pretty solid movie, and I will likely be seeing it again, especially whenever I want a good classic, like, vampire movie. Because some of the vampire scenes, because the other issue with a lot of vampire movies that we've come across is they seem almost more action-y than horror. It's like, yes, they have the horror elements, but they're not really scary. With these, I wasn't necessarily, like, on the edge of my seat terrified, but they were really creepy, especially, like, in, like, the morgue scene whenever the mom is coming back. Like, that was really creepy.
Oh, my stomach dropped when the cemetery caretaker, the guy that digs the graves, when he was sitting on the bed and the teacher guy closes the window and you see the guy's eyes glowing as he's sitting on the bed.
Yeah. They had some really good tense moments.
That was good.
Yes. So it's like they had some really good good moments there, I felt like.
The oh no moments.
Yeah. My one complaint is I felt like Mark, the kid that played Mark, wasn't too bad, but the kid acting was a little bit rough in spots. Overall, not too bad. We've definitely seen worse child acting, but there were, especially like in the beginning.
Is Mark the main kid? I'm horrible with
names. Mark the kid with the glasses.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's like, especially in the beginning scenes, there was some child acting that I felt was like a little bit rough and felt a little forced, but overall not too bad. I loved the doctor. She was one of my favorite characters.
And she's always awesome. She does such a good job.
Yeah. I was so sad though when she died. And she died so suddenly. I'm like, how could you do this to me? I was
upset. Rooting for her to live.
I know. But I felt like maybe
and after she had been bit and got through it too. Come on, man.
I know. But my thought is like she did kind of help push Ben to be like, to realize that he needs to grapple with the fact that I don't know if they're like dating, but
sort of girlfriend.
Kind of. Sorta? They were very. Yeah, their situationship that he needed to.
They were like, obviously attracted to each other, and they hinted heavily that they had slept together. Yeah. But like, they had known each other a week.
Yeah. But he was a famous author. I also find it funny that he would mention that he was a writer and not an author. I don't know. I just find like it's interesting whenever like people distinguish like writer versus author, but I don't know.
I think it was hilarious when he walked into the place she worked at while she was reading one of his books.
Yeah.
With his picture covering the entire
and she didn't
back
immediately
cover.
recognize him. She was just like, you look familiar.
And then she hears his name and she's like, that does sound kind of familiar. But she didn't realize fully until he left the office and she's like, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, you don't assume that you're going to just meet a famous person like off the street, So, but Yeah. But I liked their relationship. I thought it was cute. And I was sad that they turned her. Yeah. But I feel like it was like necessary for him to kind of like, for the movie to go up a level,
I wasn't too sad. We didn't know much about her.
Fair.
He knew her for a week.
Yeah, that's fair. And I really, aside from like the main writer guy, I thought that Mark the Kid was overall one of the smarter characters, which was interesting.
Kid. Okay, yeah, I honestly loved him. He was my favorite character.
Yeah. Like, this kind of creeps into the realism, but whenever he drove through the TV screen to knock it down, that was so smart. I'm just like, oh my God.
He was the smartest one of the bunch.
I know.
And with the most kills under his belt.
And I feel like the most attempted, like, kills against him. Like, they were trying to turn him so hard. Yeah. And he's like, no.
Well, did you see his kill to death ratio?
Yeah. Like,
dude was doing good.
Yeah. So I'm sad that his dad.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
You kind of saw it coming, but it was a bummer.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, I just love it because it's like, Ben is obviously distracted and like in trouble, and Mark's like, you know what? I got this. And
I got you, man.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like overall, I feel like as far as vampire movies go, this one's pretty solid. You're going to get a lot of satisfaction in, the kills and the danger that the characters are in. I thought it was interesting that they had the vampires sleep in the trunks because of the cars, because it's like, yeah, how are you going to have enough coffins to fit all the townspeople? It's like, oh yeah, let's just like use these makeshift coffins in the trunk of the car. It's like, well, that would work. But yeah, I thought I was very much entertained. And I was engrossed in the movie.
Yes.
So, yeah, pretty solid vampire movie. It's not the scariest of movies, but you will have some creep factor there, I feel like. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This movie, I give it a 7.25. It's decent. I like the story. I like the lore. I feel like they play a little fast and loose with some things, but we'll get to that in the realism. Main kid, freaking awesome. Love him so much. Wonderful. 10 out of 10. He's the smartest one in the entire goddamn movie. And the one with the most kills. I feel like the character development isn't as strong as it could have been in this movie. It is definitely also kind of a slow burn. Like, it takes a while for things to really happen. And I know there's some setup and all, but there wasn't really much depth to the setup, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
So I feel like they could have skipped a lot of the beginning stuff if you're not going to have that depth to the setup, and get to the good part. Get to the meat. There's a lot of people in the town that are very like shallow characters, or they're kind of crappy characters, so when they get turned or just offed, you don't really feel that bad. I don't like how they went after kids first. That's kind of effed, and I didn't like that. Didn't appreciate it. Didn't like it. Made me very uncomfy.
Yeah, like the kidnap scene with the little brother, that was heart-wrenching. Yes. Especially when he's like screaming bloody murder, and then that was a little bit dramatic of a scene.
And also, I didn't quite understand. They didn't really explain why they had to have a sacrifice initially to desecrate the area, quote unquote.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like that, it just seemed kind of random, honestly. Like, why not just start biting people and turning them? Yeah. Because it started with the kid. I mean, he started with his brother. Why not?
The only thing I can think of is almost kind of like what Underworld does, where it's like they almost need like that initial blood to like reawaken or gain strength enough to be able to hunt.
But if he needed enough blood, like enough, all of the blood from that one kid, why be so messy with it? It got everywhere. Everywhere. For a vampire to waste that much food? Why? Why? It just seems so unnecessary and rude.
A little bit dramatic.
A bit. I mean, I know vampires they tend to be drama queens, let's be honest, but still.
They're the drama queen of the monsters.
They are. Let's look at Dracula, shall we?
For the dramatic.
Seriously. Yeah, so...
Or, like, even Lestat. Like.
Oh, my God, Lestat. Oh, my God, Lestat. Yes. Jesus. Okay. Most of my issues came, as usual, from the realism scale. So... that's where we're going to move to in a moment. A lot of the interactions, some of them didn't feel quite as organic. They were not really robotic, but just kind of, you could tell it was kind of scripted. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel as natural. They didn't have quite as good a chemistry between some of the characters. The main writer guy and the love interest were decent together and interacting together, but there were a few others that I'm like,
not quite. Yeah.
Not quite. Wasn't
natural.
Quite there.
Yeah.
But that's what I have for entertainment.
So, for realism, I give it a 2.5. So, like, I felt like overall, it's like some of the reactions and instincts were good, while others not so good. Like, for example, like the kids meeting the stranger or whatever. I'm glad that they didn't give in and get in the car, and he had to go out of his way to, like, kidnap one of them to be able to get them. Well, like, I feel like them bringing in the coffin to begin with, like, I can understand his reaction, like, I don't want to know what's in there, but I would at least still contact the authorities to check it out, because that's really sus.
Like, do the job, get paid, and then contact the authorities. Or get paid up front.
Yeah. So one thing that I thought was interesting, that I thought was realistic, but also an inconsistency at the same time, is I thought it was really interesting with the guy that was a priest, and he's like, I'm a priest. And the vampire, like, questioned his faith, and then his faith faltered, and then that's when the crucifix stopped working, and then he could eventually turn him or whatever. But I thought that was a really cool concept, and also really realistic, because if you don't have faith to back up the crucifix, then what's the point in using the crucifix type of thing? But then that also makes you think about the other characters that are using the crucifix. Like, well, do they have faith? They haven't really established how, if they do have faith or not, or if they're just using the crucifix to protect themselves.
And like, I didn't before, but I do now.
Yeah. So it's like, I kind of like the idea that they established that, and that's cool that that's how the priest got killed. But at the same time, they also made a potential plot hole for themselves by not, like, establishing the faith of the other characters.
Yep.
I also thought it was interesting that the vampires, even though they're on fire, they were still, like, trying to get towards, like, Ben and get at him and kill him. I feel like that's more realistic than some
for the
other
underlings,
vampires. Because, like, some vampires, they just, like, immediately are like, ash, and then, like, go away. But it's like, I like the fact that it's just like, no, it's like they're still a person. They're burned through, unfortunately. But at their core, they are a creature that have a thirst, and they want that thirst to be quenched. And so it would make sense that despite them dying, they're going to still go for that last drink of blood.
Well, also, their directive seemed to have been to turn everyone.
Yeah.
So bite everyone.
Yeah, so it does. So it doesn't. They're
That
not
was
even thinking about their own survival. They're just
that was
turning-
the directive from their master.
Yeah.
Was turn everyone.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I thought the relationship between the girl and Ben, I forgot her name.
Yeah.
But I thought even though it was fast, I still found it realistic because I can see that happening, especially if you like are meeting a famous author that's from your hometown. I mean, you're going to, you know, and if he likes you and you like him,
the birds and the bees.
The birds and the bees. the birds be chirping and the bees be buzzing. I also, but I did think it was a really cool concept that they had the vampires. Like, so not only was the vampires like the ones that need permission to go into like a house or they need to be invited in, but that they put you in a trance to force you to open.
Which there's a lot of lore about, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of lore about vampires when they're turned going after their loved ones first. So, which makes sense. The kid went after his mother and then his friend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Like, did his family. Let's go on to friends now.
Yeah.
So, that made sense.
And then the sheriff being a piece of shit, I could see.
Even the vamps didn't want him.
Yeah, that was satisfying.
Like, yeah, you can keep this one.
But the fact that they threw him through the window of the church, like, my goodness.
It was a scare tactic, but also, again, you can keep him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want him. You can keep him.
But yeah, that's what I got.
So I give it a 1 because I can't pick a lane. It is entertaining to watch. It is. But if you're going to pick certain lore, then stick to it. That's all I ask. And I feel like that's not a big ask. But they can't seem to stay in a lane. Like, just stay. Just pick one. Pick one. They don't really explain why there needed to be a sacrifice. Again, if he really needed that much blood right out of the gate, one, why not get an adult that no one would really notice or care about leaving? Why a kid that you know everyone in the entire effing town is going to try to be out for a search party to try to find? That's like
the loneliest
neon sign of there's something's wrong here. Yeah.
Which arguably
someone
was
passing through, the writer guy.
Well, I was
elderly
thinking more
man.
the guy that was like the
Someone on a
underling
walk?
for the vampire.
Yeah, maybe. But he served a purpose during the day. He was his gopher. So, again, couldn't pick a lane. In one scene in particular, when they're in like the mortuary, they say twice, while the doctor lady is saying twice, while she's stabbing the vampire in the face, there is no blood. There is no blood. And then she goes, poof. She went poof. There was no body, nothing left behind. It just poof. But any other vampire, they're either burning and then fall down and they're still just a burnt corpse, or there's a lot of blood and a stake in their chest. But blood everywhere. And there are other instances where they injure the vampire and there is blood. So do they have blood? Do they not have blood? Pick a lane. And do they go poof when they die or do they not? Are you still left with a corpse and have to explain to the authorities what happened and then get locked up? Like, pick one. Is it super convenient and they go poof? Or do you have a whole nother problem on your hands afterwards? Because I feel like that would be a giant problem. I do think it's interesting that a bite is a turn. Is it like rabies? Is it a virus? Is it like rabies? Because the rabies vaccine worked. Also, the doctor just happens to carry the rabies vaccine with her in her bag. And they injected it into the elbow vein when really it should go into the deltoid muscle. I did look that up. Just so you know. Coward sheriff is a coward. Even the vamps don't want it. He did nothing. He was entirely useless. Yep. Didn't even try looking into anything. Just, nah, I'm out. Yep. Cool. Awesome. What counts as a cross?
I mean, they kind of established that it had to be binded.
It was very, very loose. It had to be bound and blessed. But can you bless something, or does it have to be someone from the church? Would it really actually count if you just some random person blessed it? And you're right, they didn't establish that they were in that faith. And what if they had a different faith? What about the Jewish people? Or Hindi, or literally any other.
They're becoming vampires.
Literally any other religion ever. What if they have a different faith? What if they're an atheist?
I have heard some lore that, like, vampires are just, like, weak against any religious symbol, so it doesn't matter the religion, but of course they don't establish that.
Follow-up question? Does the vampire have to have been religious in their previous life for it to work too? Or when they turn, are they just automatically, they gain a weakness to all religions, like all faith?
Yeah, I feel like
it's such a slippery slope, and I honestly kind of hate that part of the lore for vampires, is that, oh, the cross will save us. What if I'm not a Christian?
I mean, you know, for when vampires were made, it makes sense for the time. It's a wooden tea. Well, and then also, like, a crucifix is different than a cross. Is a crucifix you need, or a cross, or both?
Or does it need to be wood, or does it need to be metal, or, like, can it just be anything? Can you make a paper cross?
What about one of nose hairs or something?
Is it bound and blessed? Use what you got, right?
Just braided nose hair.
God, ew. Also, once again, what constitutes as too much light? What is the level needed to kill or burn a vampire? Because in several scenes, there's some that are seen in indirect sunlight or shade out in the open when the sun is still out. And they're not burning. It's only when they, like, leave the shadow that they start burning.
Yeah, which, fun fact...
So how much light is too much light?
Yeah, because fun fact, you can't actually get sunburned in the shade.
It's just less. It's just decreased.
It just takes longer.
It takes longer.
So I would guess... Like, I mean, of course, I don't establish this, but I would guess, if I had to gander, that it would just take them, they just can't be in the shade forever. Like, they would eventually have to, it's a slow burn, a slow creep.
But it's still sunlight.
Yeah, it is.
It's just indirect sunlight. Yeah. So how much light is too much light? I need to know. And they play real fast and loose with a lot of this. So I don't appreciate it. And also, if you know where the vampires are going to be, and they're all going to be gathered in one place, and you want to attack them all without, having to worry about being unalived or bitten while completing this task, why would you go to that location right before sunset?
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a daybreak kind of thing, like an hour or two after sunrise.
Yeah.
Maybe noon when it's directly overhead and there's like no shadows. Yeah, I feel like that would be like the best time. So if they just thought of it right before sunset, maybe find a defensible position and hole up for one more night. If you're worried about them being like, oh, it's just one or two more people, we'll go to the next town over, then maybe set up traps around the town or like speakers and things, making noises so they think that maybe there's someone else there, or try to hunt them. They don't know exactly where you are, so they're trying to find you kind of thing. Kill time until the next day.
Yeah.
When it's safer and more efficient. But no, also going back to the coffins thing, like he had to sleep in the coffin and there was dirt in the coffin. Like he had to sleep in grave dirt. I'm pretty sure it was. At least that's what a lot of the lore is of why there's dirt in the coffin. So why don't the others have to? Is it only the master vampire? Not the underlings?
That's true.
Why them? And then they're like, oh, their trunks are their coffins. And I'm like, okay, but one of the kids had a coffin. Did he have to go back in that coffin to sleep? They just didn't cover the grave.
I guess, I would guess so.
Or what? Like, is it just where you drop is what you got? Or what? Like, they play real fast and loose with the rules for these vampires in this movie. And I feel like if they had just picked a lane and stuck with it, it would have been better. Instead, you sit there like, okay, but in this scene, in this one there was a lot of blood, and this one they go poof.
But I think that's based off of how they get killed. Because the one that goes poof, it was because of the cross, right? It wasn't because of a stake.
Yeah, but others were touched by the cross and they didn't go poof.
I'd have to rewatch some of those scenes because maybe like, and that was how they died?
I don't think they necessarily died that way, but...
Because I think it's specifically how they die.
Yeah. Well, still, like, they could have been, like... I don't know. It just seemed off. And very convenient, also, that she went poof. Because now there's also a missing body when they were supposed to bury her.
Yep.
So, that's what I got for that, though. It is an entertaining movie, but pick a lane.
But yeah, it's like this makes me just want to read the actual book and see how it compares and see what elements they took out of the book versus what elements they are just like, we're doing this. But yeah, if you've read the book, I would be interested to know your thoughts on if it's similar to this movie. How does it compare? Does Stephen King go off on a weird tangent like he does in It? But I mean, Salem's Law is a lot shorter of a book than It. Yeah. It is a long book, but yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today and let us know what you thought of the movie. If you'd like to recommend a movie, game, or tea, you can leave us a comment or join our Discord. And if you'd like to keep up to date with their content, you can find our link tree listed below.
And if you'd like to support us monetarily, we have a Teespring and PayPal, or we have our affiliate link with Republic of Tea available. It does not affect the price of the tea. It just allows us to continue to do what we love. And you can find all of those sites mentioned linked below. But until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy.
Bye!